For centuries, we have held a foundational belief that grand civilization, complex societies, and profound spiritual endeavors could only emerge after humanity had settled, after we had mastered agriculture and built cities. We believed that these monumental undertakings were the pinnacle of a developed society. But what if the most ancient, most breathtaking temple ever discovered, a structure that utterly rewrites the very dawn of human belief, was painstakingly erected not by farmers, not by city dwellers, but by nomadic hunter-gatherers, long before the first seed was sown? Welcome, everyone, to a journey into the truly unknown. Today, we delve into the astounding enigma known as Göbekli Tepe, a place whispered about as the temple before time. And I promise you, by the time we finish our exploration, your entire understanding of human history, of the very origins of our deepest spiritual impulses, will be profoundly, perhaps irrevocably, transformed. If the echoes of forgotten pasts, the whispers of ancient mysteries, captivate your imagination as deeply as they do mine, then please consider subscribing. It ensures you won't miss a single story as we continue to unearth the incredible secrets buried beneath the sands of time. Now, close your eyes for a moment, and let us step back 12 millennia to a world unlike any we have ever known. Imagine, if you will, a vast, ancient landscape, not so different from how it appears today. Rolling, sun-drenched hills stretching to the horizon, a dry wind whispering through sparse grasses. This is the Anatolian Plateau, in what is now southeastern Turkey. For millennia, a prominent artificial mound, a tell, sat quietly in this landscape, its secrets buried deep beneath layers of earth and time. It looked to the casual eye like nothing more than a natural rise in the terrain, perhaps an old farm field or a quiet place for sheep to graze. But within that unassuming mound lay a truth so profound, so utterly disruptive to our established narratives of human history, that it would force us to rethink everything we thought we knew about our earliest ancestors. This place is Göbekli Tepe, and its age alone is enough to send a shiver down your spine. While Stonehenge, a marvel in its own right, dates back some 5,000 years, and the Great Pyramids of Egypt stand as monuments from 4.5 millennia ago, Göbekli Tepe dwarfs them in antiquity. It was meticulously constructed, an astonishing 12,000 years ago, during the very last gasps of the Stone Age, a staggering 7 millennia before the earliest pyramids, and 6 millennia before Stonehenge even began to take shape. This was a time before pottery, before metallurgy, before the wheel, before writing, before settled agriculture, and indeed before what we traditionally consider civilization. It was a world dominated by small bands of nomadic hunter-gatherers, moving with the seasons, following the wild game. Yet these very people, living at the edge of the known ice age, somehow managed to conceive, engineer, and erect monumental structures of breathtaking scale and sophistication. Massive carved stone pillars, weighing many tons, were quarried, transported, and precisely arranged into complex circular enclosures. It is a site that truly stands beyond time, an echo from an era we are only just beginning to comprehend, challenging the very bedrock of our understanding of human ingenuity and spiritual aspiration. The story of Göbekli Tepe's rediscovery is, like many great archaeological finds, a blend of accident, perseverance, and profound intuition. It began rather unassumingly in the 1960s, when a shepherd noticed some carved stones protruding from the soil of the mound. Local archaeologists made a brief survey, dismissed the findings as little more than a medieval graveyard, and the site returned to its quiet slumber, its true significance unrecognized. The Earth kept its secrets tightly for another 3 decades. Then, in 1994, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt arrived. He had a different kind of vision, a deep understanding of the subtle hints and whispers that ancient sites often offer. Revisiting the shepherd's initial report, Schmidt meticulously re-examined the location and, almost immediately, knew he was looking at something extraordinary. The carved stones, previously misidentified, bore the unmistakable hallmarks of prehistoric workmanship. From the very first trench, it became clear that this was no ordinary mound. It was a meticulously layered time capsule. What followed was an excavation of immense scale and painstaking precision. Slowly, carefully, over decades, the Earth gave up its treasures. What emerged from beneath the soil were not simple dwellings, but a series of enormous concentric circular enclosures. Each circle was defined by massive T-shaped limestone pillars, some standing over 16 feet tall and weighing up to 20 tons. These colossal stones were not merely rough-hewn, they were expertly carved, often depicting a menagerie of wild animals. Slithering snakes, fierce boars, swift foxes, predatory lions, scorpions, vultures, and aurochs. Some pillars even bore abstract symbols, still undeciphered, hinting at a complex symbolic language. The pillars were arranged with an almost astronomical precision, forming inward-facing circles, with 2 larger central T-pillars standing sentinel in the heart of each enclosure. The sheer effort involved in this construction is almost incomprehensible for the era. Imagine, for a moment, hunter-gatherers, without metal tools, without beasts of burden, quarrying these multi-ton stones from distant bedrock, moving them across rugged terrain, and then somehow raising them into an upright position, and finally carving them with such artistry. This was an undertaking that would have required immense coordination, a profound shared vision, and an organizational capacity previously unimaginable for people living 12 millennia ago. It speaks to a deep, compelling motivation, something far beyond mere survival. As the circular enclosures of Göbekli Tepe were painstakingly revealed, a revolutionary truth began to emerge. This was not a settlement. It was not a place where people lived, cooked, or slept. There were no traces of hearths, no domestic refuse, no signs of long-term habitation. Instead, the archaeological evidence overwhelmingly pointed to its function as a purely ritual or ceremonial complex. It was a temple, a sacred gathering place, constructed by diverse groups of nomadic hunter-gatherers. The single fact utterly rewrote the established timeline of human history. For so long, our understanding was linear. Humanity first developed agriculture, settling down into permanent villages. This stability then led to the surplus of resources and labor necessary for complex social structures, which in turn paved the way for monumental architecture and the development of organized religion. Civilization, we believed, sprang from the farm. But Göbekli Tepe flips this narrative on its head. Here we find sophisticated spiritual endeavor, grand architectural projects, and clear evidence of large-scale collective organization before the advent of agriculture. This suggests a radical new possibility. Perhaps it was not the need for food that first united humanity on such a grand scale, but the need for meaning, for connection to the spiritual realm. Perhaps the collective effort involved in constructing these sacred sites, the shared rituals and beliefs, acted as a powerful social glue, drawing disparate nomadic groups together. This shared purpose, this deeply ingrained spiritual impulse, might have actually driven the very innovations that led to agriculture and permanent settlement. Think of it, the need to feed large gatherings for ritualistic purposes, the desire to stay close to such a sacred place,
could have been the catalyst for cultivating wild grains and eventually domesticating animals. Göbekli Tepe thus becomes a monumental question mark, challenging us to consider that our deepest spiritual yearnings might be not a byproduct of civilization, but one of its fundamental architects. What did these ancient peoples believe? The intricately carved animals on the pillars offer tantalizing clues. Vultures, often associated with sky burial and the transition between worlds, snakes, symbols of transformation and fertility, fierce predators like lions and boars, these were not merely decorative. They suggest a rich cosmology, perhaps an animal cult, or a profound connection to the natural world and its powerful forces. Some scholars even speculate that the T-shaped pillars themselves are highly stylized anthropomorphic figures, perhaps ancient deities or revered ancestors, their arms depicted along their narrow sides. These are not simple representations. They are imbued with symbolism that speaks of a complex worldview, a sophisticated mythology that existed long before the first written word. The dawn of belief, it seems, was not a tentative flicker, but a blazing bonfire, casting long, enigmatic shadows across the prehistoric landscape.
Why would they do this? The reasons remain one of the site's most enduring mysteries. Was it an act of reverence? A desire to protect and honor a sacred space that had served its purpose? Perhaps a shift in beliefs rendered the old ways obsolete, necessitating the respectful entombment of the old gods or spirits. Some theories suggest a catastrophic event or a dramatic environmental change, like the onset of widespread drought, might have forced a migration or a change in lifestyle, leading to the deliberate closing of the site. Or perhaps, as some speculate, the act of burial itself was a final, grand ritual, marking the end of an era, a symbolic act of closure. What we do know is that the site was not forgotten or lost. It was intentionally put to rest, preserving it in a remarkably intact state for archaeologists thousands of years later to discover. Adding to the mystery is the fact that the site was constructed in distinct phases, with older, smaller, and perhaps less refined circular enclosures lying beneath later, larger, and more elaborate ones. This suggests an evolution in both design and perhaps in the ritual practices themselves, indicating that Göbekli Tepe was not a static entity, but a living, changing center of spiritual life, growing in complexity over generations. And then, abruptly, the building stopped, and the great burial began, sealing its secrets away. What happened to the people who built it? The vibrant communities united by this shared sacred vision? Did they disperse? Did their culture transform? Did they take their profound knowledge and beliefs to new lands, carrying the seeds of the Neolithic Revolution with them? We may never know for certain. Göbekli Tepe has fundamentally reshaped our understanding of human prehistory, forcing archaeologists, anthropologists, and historians to reevaluate deeply held assumptions. It demonstrates unequivocally that complex social organization, sophisticated symbolic thought, and monumental architecture emerged not only before agriculture, but perhaps even inspired the very transition to a settled way of life. This shifts the focus from purely economic or technological drivers of human development
to the profound influence of shared belief and ritual. It suggests that the impulse to create, to connect with the divine, and to gather in shared sacred spaces is an incredibly ancient and powerful aspect of the human condition, far older than we ever dared to imagine.
The site remains an active archaeological marvel, with only a fraction of its estimated 20 acres fully excavated. Each new discovery brings more questions than answers. Who were these people? What exactly were their rituals? What was the precise meaning of the intricate animal carvings and abstract symbols? Why was it buried so meticulously? Göbekli Tepe stands as a powerful testament to the unknown depths of humanity's past, a silent, majestic challenge to our modern perceptions of ancient life. It is a place that whispers of forgotten mythologies, of a time when the lines between the wild world and the sacred were deeply intertwined, and where the human spirit, in its earliest stirrings, reached for something transcendent, building temples before the very concept of time as we know it had fully begun. Its lingering questions continued to echo, inviting us to look deeper, to listen more closely to the incredible stories still buried beneath the sands of time. Göbekli Tepe is more than an archaeological site. It is a crucible where our understanding of the human story is being reforged. It demands that we shed our preconceived notions of prehistory and embrace a past far richer, more complex, and spiritually driven than previously imagined. It is a monument built by an impulse we still feel today, the impulse to gather, to believe, to create enduring symbols of our place in the cosmos. And as the sun sets over those ancient Anatolian hills, casting long shadows across the T-shaped pillars, the silence around Göbekli Tepe is not empty. It is filled with the quiet, persistent whispers of a profound mystery, an invitation across 12 millennia to look deeper, to feel the ancient pulse of a humanity reaching for the divine long before the very concept of a farmer, a city, or even a kingdom had ever taken root. The first sacred hill remains, a beacon from a forgotten age, forever challenging us to listen to the incredible stories still buried beneath the sands of time. As we close this chapter on Göbekli Tepe, we hope you've felt the ancient echoes of its stones and the profound questions it continues to pose. If this journey into the dawn of human belief has resonated with you, please consider subscribing to Whispervale. Your support helps us unearth more of these forgotten tales. And if you're eager for another mystery from the depths of history, you'll find a trove of them waiting for you here. Until next time, keep listening to the whispers of the past.